Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studio, it's time for Family Business Radio. Showcasing outstanding family businesses and the advisors who assist them.
Good afternoon. You're listening to another great episode of Family Business Radio. I am your host, Anthony Chen. Today we have three great esteemed guests. We have Michael Horwitz with Transworld Business Advisors of Atlanta North, Nancy Pridgen with Pridgen Bassett Law, LLC, and Dr. Jaeson Courseault and Kimberly Palmieri from Life Hope Healing Medicine Spa. So kind of kicking us off the show to start, we have Michael. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you. Great to be here, Anthony.
Great. So kind of share with the audience your journey as to what got you into being a M&A advisor.
So, I've had a long career in corporate America, entrepreneurial America. My last stop was as a small business owner. I own my own bicycle shop in Alpharetta. And after 7 years, I made a decision to close it. The shop was doing well, but the owner wasn't making any money. And I said, there's got to be something different. And a family friend asked, so what's Michael doing these days? And he's an M&A advisor, a business broker. And he said, why don't you think about doing what I do? And I said, tell me more about it. And I spent a week with him kind of training and learning. And for 5 years now, I've been an M&A advisor, and I've loved every minute of it.
So kind of share with the audience, what is an M&A advisor or a business broker in general?
Sure. Basically, I'm an intermediary. I look a lot like a real estate agent, if you will. So if we'll follow that metaphor, I help people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses. So most of what I do is working on the sell side and working with business owners who are looking to sell the business either to move on to their next venture or for retirement. And it involves marketing the business for sale confidentially and privately, seeking prospective buyers, qualifying them, vetting them, and then making the deal happen. I'd say about 25% of my work is finding a qualified buyer. The remaining 75% is getting across the finish line, getting to the transaction table and getting the signatures done. It's an interesting, lengthy process, and but it's one that I certainly enjoy.
Well, you shared a little bit in terms of you going through your journey and selling your business. Can you share with us, the audience who have yet to take that journey? What is it like going about selling a business?
It's interesting. The first thing I would say is it's a very emotional endeavor. Many of my clients have had their businesses for years. It's their baby. And many really, know it's probably time, but can't see what's on the other side. And then, of course, their baby is beautiful and worth a lot of money. So I come bouncing in and tell them, you've got a very nice business. It's probably worth less than you think it is, and it's going to take a while to sell. And, those are not things that business owners want to hear. Even when I had my bike shop, I was like, at some point, somebody's just going to walk in the door and offer me a great price for my business, and I'm going to sell it and move on. Life, unfortunately, doesn't really work that way. It does sometimes, but often it's a process and a lengthy one. And sometimes things just don't happen for weeks on end. And, my client sits there going, what is going on? What's he doing? But it may be in the hands of attorneys, it may be in the hands of bankers, all sorts of different trusted advisors that get brought in to make a transaction happen. So while, there can be great joy at the end of it, I helped one couple sell their business they'd had for 30 years, a specialty contractor, and they were thrilled. They had this home picked out in Florida. They're there squeezing sand between their toes. The new owners are doing, from what I can tell, an excellent job with the business. And it's really nice to help people move on to the next point in their lives.
So as our listeners are kind of learning about this journey, can you share with us at what point should the business owner begin thinking about selling the business?
That's an excellent question, Anthony. Thanks. So many of my clients that I meet, something happens. A health issue, like family event, and it's time. And then there's a lot of work to do because things have to be right in order to sell the business. It's a not fun fact that about 70% of businesses listed for sale, whether they're listed by an intermediary like me, listed by the owner, small business, medium-sized business, 70% listed do not sell. And among the reasons that they don't sell are the books aren't clean and a buyer just doesn't trust it. The owner is the business. So he or she hasn't taken the time over years to kind of disengage from the day-to-day and create the management team that it takes to succeed then. There are other reasons for a business not selling, but most of them can be corrected given enough time. The classic business school theory is when you start a business, you should already be thinking about your exit. And I think there's some truth to that. If you can start thinking about your exit 5 years out, minimally 2 years out, you're going to be in so much better place to move that business along because you will have taken care of many of the factors that don't make a business attractive for sale. My ideal client is someone who's worked with a business advisor, worked with an exit strategist for the past couple of years and is ready to go to market. That's the exception rather than the rule.
Mm-hmm. So from the sounds of it, what you've been sharing with us so far is that a business owner coming to you, hey, I want to sell tomorrow. That doesn't sound like that's going to be possible.
And certainly not tomorrow. The average time to sell a business is about 8 months. And that's from listing to the actual transaction taking place. So if that's an average, some businesses will sell sooner. Others can take a year, year and a half, 2 years to sell. So the process can be lengthy. It's not like selling a house where you get to put a sign up outside, right? And it's priced in the market. And eventually there's going to be a buyer for that home, good, bad, or indifferent. Businesses aren't like that. Buyers become very specific, very adamant about what they will and won't do in order to move the transaction forward. I tell my clients it's a process and patience is key. And just because you haven't heard from me doesn't mean I'm not working for you, thinking about you, trying to move the business forward, get it marketed, call prospective buyers, call other people who are in the business space and confidentially, but privately, not naming the business, telling them that there's a business like theirs on the market. Those are kind of the activities that I'm constantly doing. I'm also working with buyers who may not have representation, but I'm also helping them to seek financing, for example. If they're looking for a loan, perhaps an SBA loan, it makes sense to shop it. And I know people who are in the marketplace. There are other trusted advisors for both buyer and seller that need to enter into the mix. For example, selling a business is probably one of the largest cash liquidity events in a person's life. The question is, what are they going to do with that money? And is it enough to take them through their retirement goals? And so I'll often recommend other trusted advisors, CPAs who can advise on the tax consequences. There are capital gains, attorneys who must be there to help with the transaction details on the contracts, personal wealth advisors who it's important that they take a look at what the net proceeds of the sale are going to be, which is after capital gains, after attorneys and other fees, my success fee. Is that going to be enough? And how does it complement your retirement plan? So those are all of the things that I'm doing around the listing of a business.
It sounds like it's not just having a business broker, but you need a whole team of people in order to make it successful. Yes, very much so. And basically,
metaphor that I use is I kind of quarterback that team. Mm-hmm. So, and that's my role as an intermediary, is not only between buyer and seller, but also between their respective trusted advisors. So making sure the lawyers are doing what it is they need to do, making sure the CPAs are doing what they need to do in order to get to that transaction table, so there are no surprises. Because surprises at a transaction table most often end up with people leaving the room. Mm-hmm. So that's my most important job, is to make sure that it happens.
Talking about having all the right pieces in places in order. I know with kind of your hobby or leisurely background, you're an avid cyclist, kayaker, and backpacker, I imagine. And you also shared with the timeline. I'm imagining that's a little optimistic of 8 months. But can you kind of share with your story of connecting with someone using an analogy of your metaphor of your hobby and saying, hey, this is we're just charting out a path. We're not just going to head out in the woods without a trail in mind, I imagine.
No, that's exactly right, and that's where I love is in my journeys as I cycle with folks and I do group road rides and we chat along the way. If I can plant that seed, especially if it's a business owner, but even if it's a trusted advisor to a business owner, to tell his client, my favorite question that I ask people to ask on my behalf is, how are you going to get out of this thing? Even if you sell a business owner insurance, it's still a relevant question. Even if you're their banker, you want to know what their long-term plan is for the business. So no harm, no foul. You're getting to know your client. And, how are you going to get out of this thing raises the question. And then it'd be my pleasure to come in and just sit with a half hour with a business owner who's not ready to sell, but to talk to her about what it looks like and what she needs to do to make that successful.
Well, thank you for sharing. So for those that are listening and they're kind of hearing all this for the first time, how can they best find a trail navigator or kayaker with experience in the M&A world and share that half hour with you and learn more?
That's kind of you. Thank you. So we are at tworld.com/Atlanta North, tworld.com/Atlanta North, and you'll see me up there as well as other brokers in our agency. And I can be reached at mhorwitz@tworld.com. And my cell phone number is 678-427-1163.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Nancy Pridgen. Nancy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Anthony.
Great. So kind of share with the audience as to what your journey is like and what got you into law, and even more specifically, specializing in Erisa law.
So I did start pretty early on in Erisa litigation. We had a writing sample in law school that was based on Erisa, and of course, most law students have never heard of Erisa. Most people have never heard of Erisa, but that was our writing assignment. Fast forward a couple of years, did a couple of clerkships after law school, got introduced into Erisa litigation, and then went to Alston & Bird, one of the large law firms in Atlanta, and spent 5 years with their Erisa litigation group. And really enjoyed my time there, learned a lot, and then, decided that I needed to help smaller companies and individuals and executives with their Erisa needs, which is what, the large law firms do is they help multinational corporations with their needs. And so Pridgen Law was founded on the concept that we would provide, the type of big law advice that folks needed in their small businesses and their personal lives with regard to employee benefits.
Well, I think my apologies. I think we might have put the cart before the horse because we're both familiar with what Erisa law is all. But for our listeners, share kind of a quick snapshot of what is Erisa law.
Absolutely. So Erisa is an acronym for Employee Retirement Income Security Act. It is the federal law that applies to employee benefits all over the nation. It has very specific compliance issues. It has tangential tax issues, and for a lot of us, second only to our houses, our 401ks or our retirement plans are our largest asset, and so it has a wide-ranging application over most of the United States and most of the citizens in the U.S.
So I imagine for any business with employees and offering employee benefits, this would be applicable to them. So what would be kind of the major laws that they should at least be aware about or keep an eye?
So Erisa is wide-ranging. It applies to both pension plans, as we understand, standard traditional pension retirement plans, but also 401ks, ESOPs, as well as welfare plans, including health benefits, disability benefits, dental benefits, severance benefits, and things like that. What it's really important to know is, the interaction between ERISA and the tax laws are important. And I always like to say that every small business needs bail. As one of my favorite business coaches told me, bail is a banker, an accountant, an insurance broker, and a lawyer. And with those on your side, at least 3 of the 4 will know what ERISA is and how it applies. And it's best to have trusted advisors looking out for your compliance needs and your litigation avoidance issues as well, to make sure that you don't get sideways with the Department of Labor or, unfortunately, sometimes the IRS.
I definitely don't want to get in trouble with the IRS or DLL. So kind of looking at a little bit now, we've addressed a bit on the owner's side. What about the executives or the key employees of the business? I mean, should they also be aware about it?
They should. So ERISA governs their executive plans as well. Like I said, any employee benefit that is offered by a private employer, that would be not governments and not churches, essentially, is governed by ERISA. What they may not know is ERISA sort of operates in the background until there's a dispute. And once there's a dispute, ERISA comes front and center because that's the statute that you will have to proceed under if you have a dispute with your employer about the amount or the payout or the details of your plan.
Mm-hmm. Well, then kind of talking about dispute, we're kind of dipping our toe into it. What are some of the key situations when legal counsel will be needed to kind of address these matters? Or what are other forms where either the execs themselves or the business owner can take steps to prevent that from even happening?
Absolutely. So there are a whole set of ERISA compliance lawyers, and I'm very thankful that those people exist, in part because I don't want to do that type of law. But they get down and into the weeds in terms of making sure that all of the regulations are followed and no one gets sideways with the DOL or the IRS. But you also have folks like me who handle it, who handle both advice with regard to litigation avoidance, and when those disputes bubble up and cannot be contained any longer, litigation itself. And so things that folks can do with most small businesses, the bulk of their plans will be welfare plans that are probably insured by other by carriers. And so there's not a lot of hands-on day-to-day compliance that needs to be done by the business owner, thankfully, in those situations. But with regard to other things like severance plans, 401k plans, even if you have vendors taking care of the details, there is a role for the business owner to be making fiduciary decisions on a not a day-to-day basis, but usually a month-to-month basis on for instance, the types of investments that are offered through a 401k. An ESOP would have very specific needs for addressing the fiduciary duties for the business owner. And, severance plans, a lot of people don't know that severance plans are, in fact, governed by Erisa most of the time. And so severance is something that a business owner can be handling on its own and not know that Erisa applies, and that's slightly dangerous. Mm-hmm. So, we like to counsel our clients, both small and medium-sized businesses and individuals, just to, sort of give them an issue spotting education in terms of, when you need to get counsel involved in any particular compliance or litigation avoidance or litigation issue.
Mm-hmm. So kind of looking as you're addressing all these potential, elephants in a room that an employer might not even be aware about, particularly with severance. They just assume, okay, if I offer X, I should be fine and dandy, and I imagine you probably get a surprise letter, like, oh, oops, that's not something I should be doing. So I guess next question would be, well, what is kind of at the moment like a hot legal trend or concern regarding to employee benefits and employment matters?
Sure. So, we're, of course, in the middle of a pandemic, and the legislature and the DOL have been hard at work making sure that COVID-related issues are addressed in employment plans, employee benefit plans, and that, trying to make sure the country sort of finds its way out of this pandemic. Some of the hot issues related to small businesses are, just what do you have to do in terms of letting someone off if they get COVID? What if their family member gets sick? How does that interact with the employment laws generally? Is COVID illness a disability that we need to worry about, in ERISA plan disability litigation? Is it a disability that we need to be accommodating for? What exactly are the rules that apply to small employers versus larger employers with regard to the COVID regulations that have been passed? So, of course, those are, first and foremost on lots of business owners' minds these days.
So the other elephant in the room, you can address it if you're comfortable with it, is a couple of weeks ago, SCOTUS kind of squashed the whole mandate. And then now the companies are kind of in between a rock and a hard place. Okay, we were going with policy A, should we switch to policy B and not having a mandate? And then the conversation could be, well, if we try to force it, now we don't have quote unquote legal backing. Could we be opening ourselves more to liability, trying to enforce it than not enforcing? I mean, how does a small business even begin navigating that?
It is difficult because, the tide has changed a little bit. And mandates that are government-based are a little bit different than employer-based mandates. Employers, and certainly smaller employers, have a bit more autonomy over what they mandate as opposed to what they allow. And so we do find that, and I have in fact advised a smaller employer that made the decision. It was a hard decision, but made the decision to mandate vaccinations, and how to do that so as best to avoid liability. But to still, that particular business was a public-facing business and needed to make sure that it didn't have any liability with regard to the public and its vendors and suppliers. Mm-hmm. So, certainly, being aware of the issues, staying up to date, keeping an ear to the ground in terms of, what your employees are ready, willing, and able to do with regard to helping, get us past this pandemic is important. But my best advice to smaller employers would be, to have a trusted advisor on their side that can walk them through the pros and cons of mandates if that's something they want to try, as opposed to, if a government mandate comes down that the courts approve, which is not where we are right now, how to put that in place.
So for those who are kind of listening in and thinking, okay, there's so many things I am unaware about that I am liable for, how can best reach out to you, Nancy, and learn more?
Thank you for that. So our website is probably the best place to start. Our website address is pridgenbassett.com, pridgenbassett.com. You can reach me specifically at my email, nancy@pridgenbassett.com. They can call the main line, which is, we got lucky and got a personal line that is 470-33-ERISA. That's 470-333-7472. And we'd be happy to take your call and see if we can help with any of these compliance or litigation avoidance or litigation issues.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
So kind of switching gears, we've been talking about health of businesses, health of making sure that the business is healthy from potentially stepping on a lawsuit landmine or with regulators. Now we're kind of switching over to the physical health of things. So today we have Dr. Jaeson Courseault with us. Welcome to the show, Jaeson.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's a blessing to be here.
Great. So kind of share with us your story. What got you into medicine?
Yeah, no, I knew I wanted to be a physician from long ago in high school. Did well in the sciences, but, beyond that, just enjoyed being with people, helping people succeed, and big into health, big into working out, trying to live a healthy lifestyle. I was a athlete in high school and in college, went to med school and found out you could merge the two. And so specialized in sports medicine, and here we are today.
What was your preferred sport at the time?
Football. Definitely. Yeah. Most exciting. So
kind of show us, like, other than just being a football avid fan and playing in the sport and being a physician in sports medicine, what other things should the listeners know about you?
I think the most important thing listeners should know about me is that I'm going to do everything that I can to treat them as if they're the priority. Like no other physician has ever treated them before. I've been that patient that has kind of felt like a number, and I know what that's like. Mm-hmm. And when patients are dealing with an injury or an illness, that's stressful enough, but they're also missing out on life. And in the sports world, they're missing out on something that they put a lot of time and effort into. And so it's very important to be sensitive to that and to make them feel as if they are starting quarterback or, the priority, in other words. So,
So with kind of the term sports medicine, for most people, kind of the lay people would be, the doctor is a doctor. What makes a difference between you who specialize in sports medicine versus just, let's say, a traditional internist or primary care physician?
Sure. So sports medicine in relation to other fields is relatively new. Essentially, it's non-surgical orthopedics. So any muscle, bone, joint, tendon, inflammation, ache, pain that you may have, that's what we specialize in treating. And then on the other side of that, which I don't think we pay enough attention to, is prevention and wellness. And so there's a whole area of untapped medicine, I think, in that sense that I'm doing my best to focus on at this part in my career.
Aches and pains. I was told that I was just part of getting old, not from playing sports. Sports
no, we
general.
don't buy that. No, absolutely not.
So if I'm understanding your kind of your philosophy or approach towards medicine is that those aches and pains is not a sentence for everybody just because we're getting old.
Absolutely. I don't buy that often. And, I think one thing that sets me apart from other physicians as well is that and not a fault to other physicians. It's, I think, a problem with our healthcare system in general, where physicians are forced to churn numbers and see as many people as they can and meet those quotas. And so when you do tell your doctor, oh, this hurts or that hurts, more or less it's, ice, rest, compression, elevation, and there's a whole lot more to it than that, and a whole lot of other options that we can explore to get that patient well again. Even as far as referring to surgery, yes, at times is necessary, but quite often there are a lot of other non-surgical measures that we can do to get a patient back into spin class, back on the field, back to work, or back to just enjoying a healthy, active lifestyle.
So kind of paint for us, for the audience, like what would be your ideal patient? Because for the layperson, when they hear sports medicine, they're thinking like professional athletes out there. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not a professional athlete. That might not apply to me.
Right. The ideal patient for me is wide range. I see young children to people later in life that may be dealing with arthritis. So from the sports injury all the way to a degenerative joint, that's what we see. And at the end of the day, we're pain doctors, but in a different sense, more on the side of wellness, prevention, and treating non-surgically.
Well, can you kind of share with us kind of one of your most memorable success stories in that regard?
Absolutely. And this story extrapolates, unfortunately, to many patients that I've seen. But I did have a high school girl who was a basketball player and had a routine ankle sprain. And most people have had an ankle sprain. It swells up really big. You put, pillows underneath it. You wrap it. You put some ice on it and take some ibuprofen or Tylenol, and you expect to get better. And that's what this patient was told by her primary care doctor, her sports medicine physician, her physical therapist, just do more therapy. And after a period of about 8 months of doing that, I happened to finally cross paths with her. And when she gave me her story, it was just very heartbreaking to hear that this ankle sprain has taken you out of your sport for 8 months. There's certainly something that we're missing, and we need to reevaluate things. If one thing does not work, you have to keep trying. You don't give up. You have to finish your evaluation. And so we circled back. We ended up getting an MRI. MRI was normal. She had x-rays. X-rays were normal. And so in those cases, I like to go back to the patient. And that's where you get your best information, your best diagnostic skills come from what the patient says. And just listening again to where she's hurting, what she was doing when it hurts, all of those things, everything she's tried. And it turns out that she had this chronic inflammation in the muscles and tendons in the back of her ankle that were never treated. And so we ended up doing a pain injection along those tendons, and she got better. Within a week, she was back on the court doing ball drills where, for a period of months, she was having trouble just walking. Currently, she's starting on her team. She's made her way to varsity, and they've done very well. And it's just, for me, those types of success stories where patients have kind of been pushed off to the side and not listened to, kind of been told the same thing over and over, and not had a physician take time to listen, to treat them like a priority. That's what brings me joy. That's what makes me very excited to do what I do.
So if you're comfortable, would you do you also have like a personal story of yourself, perhaps an injury, and you say, and you kind of from your experience, because you shared a little bit about being treated like a number, and you're probably thinking there's got to be a better way.
Yes, the ankle sprains, and that's why I bring that one up again, because when that patient came across me, I directly was able to connect with her. I had sprained ankles in high school, and missed a lot of my freshman and sophomore year because of it. And, I didn't have anyone to more or less take that time to figure out, okay, what are we missing here? And that's what I really try and pride myself in doing and taking care of patients.
It's a very holistic view. In a way, it's not just, as you mentioned, the MRI or X-rays or the numbers on a chart, but again,
treat the patient.
Getting to the basic and having a conversation. Who would have thought about that?
Yeah, exactly. We've just gotten away, and like I say, it's not so much the fault of the physician. It's the healthcare system, in my opinion, that has kind of forced us to, again, see the numbers and generate income, more or less.
So talking about like impact and helping others in their health and being able to get back right away to their sport and their love and their passion. For yourself, I mean, if there could be, let's say, a book written about you and your journey and your life, I mean, what would be the title and what would kind of be the blurb about?
That's a good question. And quite honestly, I've thought about this before, but if there were a book about me, I would title it The Most Successful Failure. And I say that because in life there are failures, and no one succeeds in life without having gone through those things. In sports, certainly, great example. When you win, it's great, but when you lose, there's a lesson there. There's something that you can learn from that. And I would say that there is more value in the failure than there is in the success. And so I try and take that approach with patients, especially when I'm giving bad news that may be even season ending, or if a patient has to miss a vacation because of an injury or something like that. I try and keep that kind of mindset. So,
well, talking about inspiring and helping change or quote unquote fix the healthcare system, what are kind of the goals that you have in the way that you run your practice, and how do you go about improving the way healthcare is being delivered?
Yeah, I'm in a very unique position because as a business owner that has partnered with Life Hope Medical, I'm able to create a schedule for patients that allows them the time that they need to be seen. And I think that part is missing in medicine. But also on our floor, we have physical therapy, we have a chiropractor, we have strength and performance. On the bottom floor, we have cardiology, we have interventional radiology, we have a med spa. And so it's all encompassing. And the design of all of those different specialties is very different from your traditional hospital system, which is governed in a very different way. And so we have the freedom to make it convenient for the patient the way that healthcare should be. It shouldn't be more stress trying to get an appointment or waiting to be seen or only being seen for a short period of time and then having to come back for more. Be efficient, be purposeful, and be careful. To say.
So kind of then circle back for the other patients or the audience who might even know of people with, let's say, getting a little up there in age and let's say the tennis elbow, or they've been golfers and they kind of really sprain their back or slip disc. Would these kind of be the ideal patients in coming to you after the fact? Because you also touched a little bit about preventative care, so they don't get that slip disc or that tennis elbow.
Right. Yes. No. Though that type of patient is ideal, and you don't always know what to do for seemingly common injuries like tennis elbow or low back pain or again an ankle sprain. There's a lot that goes into our specialty as and science and the research has done an excellent job in figuring out what more can be done than what was done traditionally. I mean, I really do appreciate medicine in that sense because it is so far advanced from even when I finished medical school, 10 years ago. Got to appreciate the advancements and taking a holistic approach in treating patients. So, from tennis elbow to back pain to knee swelling, shoulder pain, all of those things that seem pretty common. When the traditional things don't help, you've tried ibuprofen, ice, you've tried to rest, you've done some stretching. Come visit me. Let's get more focused. Let's figure out what exactly is going on and how to best treat it from as many different directions as we can.
So again, kind of going with whether it's sports sprains or ankle injuries and the like, can someone who doesn't necessarily play sports, should they also reach out to you?
Oh yes, absolutely. The sports piece is a bit of a misnomer in that sense. It's more of active medicine. People that are active, want to be active, can't be active, are having trouble moving. That's I think maybe even a better term for it. But no, you do not have to be an athlete. Even if you are living more of a sedentary life and want to know if it's safe to exercise, that would be a great patient to come in so that we can, number one, make sure it's safe, but number two, come up with a great individualized plan for you to get back into shape, become active, start enjoying life again.
Well, I know we can definitely go down a rabbit hole with me being a runner, or for those who are longtime listeners, talk a little bit about marathoning and all of that. Right. And it's great to hear that you have a strength and conditioning section in your area. I'm just going to throw this out there, but do you guys actually prescribe strength and conditioning as part of treatment?
Oh, absolutely. It's a big part of it. Whether it's done at home on your own, so you can have a home exercise plan if you'd like, or if you'd like the dedicated time and the equipment and the direction, absolutely. That's something that we do offer and pride ourselves in having that piece of the pie in your treatment plan.
So I imagine some patients might be a little surprised they were expecting a pills prescription, but you're writing a workout regimen for them instead.
Absolutely. No, pills are great when you need them. Most patients actually are averse to taking medicine, and I can understand why. I mean, if you ever read the side effects of Tylenol, it may really freak you out. But yes, pills necessary when we need them. But if we can, again, use every tool possible to attack the same problem, you've got a better chance of recovering.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We could, as I mentioned, really go down a rabbit hole, and for me, geek out over sports.
Me too.
Sports medicine. But for our listeners, oh, you mean I don't have to suffer with this ankle injury or elbow, or I could get back out there again potentially, and being more active and getting back to my passion again? How can they best find you?
Yeah, so our number to make an appointment, 770-755-5445. Our website is lifehopetrifecta.net, and trifecta is spelled TRIF3cta, or CTA, yes. So 3 instead of an E. Or you can email me directly at DRC, so Dr. C at trifecta.net. And that's trifecta with a 3 instead of an E.
All right. Thank you, Jaeson.
Thanks for having me.
So coming away with this kind of a theme with our 3 great guests is always planning ahead. You don't want to wait until the very end, whether it's, I already gave a severance package and I just kind of accidentally tripped over a regulation I was unaware about, or, hey, I need to sell a business, but I should have done some planning 3 or 5 years ago. It can't be done tomorrow. So a universal question to kind of bring all 3 of our wonderful guests back is, there's this theme of teamwork and being able to look at a client, or in this case, a patient situation more holistically, not just in a legal or financial or even just a PT perspective. So the question would be, when it kind of comes to holistic planning, what signs should the listener look for, or perhaps maybe typical 2 or 3 red flags that they say, hey, okay, I check mark these red flags. I need to get myself in front of, let's say, a sports medicine person or an Erisa attorney or an M&A business advisor or business broker. So what are the top one or 3 red flags that if it happens, okay, I need to talk to these people? So as we give our guests some time to think, this show is sponsored and brought to yours truly, Anthony Chen with Lighthouse Financial Network, securities and advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., RAA, member FINRA SIPC. RAA is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of RAA. Main office address is 575 Broad Hollow Road out in Melville, New York, 11747. You can best reach me at 631-465-9090, extension 5075, or best through my email, which is really just my full name, Anthony Chen, CHEN, at lfnllc.com. So bringing our 3 guests back. So again, the question is, when it comes to holistic planning in your respective fields, for our listeners, what are the top 1 or 3 red flags they should look out for? And when it happens, realize, okay, I need to consult with this particular professional in your respective fields. So Michael.
Well, thank you. So this will sound a little counterintuitive, but the best time to sell a business is when things are going really, really well. Mm-hmm. So the better it's going, the more you might want to think about it.
Mm-hmm. So it's not even a red flag, it's a green flag. Hey, all this money is pouring in. I should think about selling now. Absolutely. A green flag. I like that. Green flag. Great. Thank you. Nancy.
Sure. Just to piggyback off of Michael, certainly acquiring a business is when you need to, acquiring or selling a business is when you need to get counsel involved in terms of making sure that what you're selling or buying is healthy under the employment laws and under ERISA. Certainly as a business owner, anytime there's a pain point with regard to an employee issue, that's always a red flag. It's better to get a lawyer involved and trusted counsel involved when a dispute is threatening as opposed to when it's fully blown and boiled over. Mm-hmm. And with regard to executives and other key employees, sometimes just like a financial checkup, you need a legal checkup to see what your benefits look like and if everything's going correctly. We can help with that. And again, for the business owner who does have fiduciary duties for some of their plans, we can do a checkup on your financial compliance. And so we're happy to help in any of those circumstances.
Right. Thank you. And Jaeson.
Yes, I know one big red flag in my field is if you have any redness or swelling or warmth over a joint, you need to get in to see a professional about that. But otherwise, I would say that if you're having pain or an injury that hasn't responded to your typical home remedies or things that you know to do, come in and see me. Or if you have an injury or pain that's limiting what you want to do in life, I pride myself in getting you back to that. So that would be a major reason. Just go on and see sports medicine.
All right, great. Thank you, Jaeson.
Thanks.
Now, for this little section called Anthony's Take on this podcast when it comes to in the field and world of financial advisory and planning. So kind of piggybacking off the universal question of what are the red or maybe even green flags one should begin to spot for and potentially consider consulting a financial advisor and or planner. Sometimes it's not always just when one is in a financial strait, but kind of copying from Michael Horowitz is when things are good. When, let's say, for example, a great promotion, a career change, or even a bonus coming in. I know it can be very tempting to be going out and buying that fancy car, but that fancy car is not going to be there come retirement or for a business owner come sale of a business. So sometimes when considering reaching out to a financial advisor, think about some major changes in one's life, whether, again, it's a promotional career job change or, promotion. That will be a good time, usually a green flag, to reach out to a financial advisor and begin having that conversation. So thank you all again for listening in to Family Business Radio. I'm your host, Anthony Chen. Have a great day.